Well, it's still the heat of October, and if you guys are anything like me, some nights you still struggle to figure out what you want to watch. Fret not, because here's 10 more movies that you should watch this Halloween season. What's up, everybody? It's Nick here at the Lost River Drive-In, and tonight I want to give you guys 10 more movies that you should watch this October. Now, there's not really a rhyme or reason to this, aside from these are movies that I normally watch every October. I think most of them fit the season very well. I could be wrong. I'd like to hear your guys' thoughts on it. But first up is going to be Dr. Sleep. Now, it's an inside joke with a lot of people that know the podcast or know my channel well at all, that I adore this movie. This is a movie that I, yes, consider better than The Shining. I know, blasphemy. Some of you probably already clicked off, said this guy has no clue what he's talking about. But that's just my opinion. But regardless, this is a movie that I think you have to watch in October. But I also think you can watch The Shining in October. So really either one. But gun to my head, I'm choosing Dr. Sleep. There's a lot of reasons why I love this movie, and I have gone in depth on my channel about why I love Dr. Sleep. But keeping it brief, it captures a lot of the hopelessness and the dark, cold visuals and tones of The Shining that I just think it's kind of perfect for this time of year. I really don't think you can go wrong. And if you're going to, this is the Steelbook. This was a Best Buy exclusive, but this is the 3-hour unrated director's cut. If you're able to get your hands on the unrated director's cut, I implore you to do so, because it is absolutely the version to watch for this movie. It really plays like a book, like chapter by chapter. This movie's phenomenal. Next up is one that is perfect for the summertime, but it's also just perfect for October because it's just a quintessential horror movie. That's the original The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Christian would argue that this is the greatest horror movie of all time objectively, and I don't know if you can say he's wrong. I think there's a handful of movies you could put on that level, and you'd have a good argument where most people would probably go, you know what, potato, potato. Who says potato? But anyway, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre is an absolute classic. It's a movie that is just so depraved and dark and insane and balls to the wall and mean. You gotta watch it. You gotta watch it around Halloween, right? I mean, Halloween is a season of death and despair and spooky shit. What better movie to watch around that time of year than this messed up movie? Next up is going to be one that I think some of you guys are going to be surprised to see on my list, because it's not one of the ones from this director I talk about a lot, but it is The Lords of Salem. Again, another movie that is perfect for October. I pretty much think every Rob Zombie movie is perfect for October, even 31, the one Rob Zombie movie that I don't like I genuinely do not like that movie, but this movie absolutely. Just based off of the fact that it takes place in the fall, it's very desaturated in its colors, it's very hopeless, it's about demons, it's about insanity. Yeah, of course, October. This is easily his best looking film. I don't think anybody would argue that the movie just looks gorgeous. It's shot very well. I think it's arguably Sherry's best performance. It's a really captivating story that does kind of go off the rails in the third act. At the very end, you're just kind of like, what? But overall, The Lords of Salem is a super solid movie and a perfect watch for October. I cannot stress that enough. If you have not watched this movie because you're not a fan of Rob Zombie, or you heard bad things about this movie, change that. Watch The Lords of Salem. You will not be disappointed. I hope. Next up is one that I just recently added to what is going to be my yearly rotation in October, and that is Silent Hill. And again, I have my buddy Mark to thank for this. Look, this movie is absolutely perfect for October. I'm going to say that about all these movies, but this one specifically, very disturbing, almost like a haunted house thrill ride. You know, it's almost like most of this movie is like going through an attraction at a theme park in October. You see weird shit, you hear weird shit. That is Silent Hill. This movie is just awesome to look at. It's like another dimension. It delivers the gore, it delivers the goods, it pretty much delivers everything you could want. When the darkness comes in Silent Hill, what happens to the world around and to everybody in it and the things that come from the darkness, just perfect quintessential Halloween viewing. Cannot stress that enough. You got to check out Silent Hill if you haven't already. Like myself, I know, took me a while, but do it and add it to your yearly rotation. Next up is going to be one that I think you can choose the first or the second one, in my opinion. I personally side with the second one, and that is Phantasm. Now, again, you can do one or two. I think either one of them are perfect viewing for October. The third movie is fun for what it is. The fourth movie is, it's okay, I guess. The fifth movie we do not speak about. But this set is great. It comes with all five. This actually was only like 25 bucks at Walmart, I believe, which is an awesome, awesome deal for these movies. But 1 and 2, I think, are perfect in October. I tend to lean more towards 2 just because I think it's the more fun movie. I think more is going on. But 1 is probably the more like fall fitting feeling film, Five Nights at Freddy's, whatever. So I think you should go with either one of these movies, the first or the second one. Now, if you're someone that says, oh, I prefer the third one, hey, more power to you. But I do think that if you're going to watch a horror movie in October, especially if you like John Carpenter's Halloween or really just 70s horror cinema, I think the first movie is really the way to go in October. But either way, if you haven't seen these movies, because I know they're a little bit more cult than, the mainstream, they're good. I really, really like most of these movies. And I think that, you're missing out if you have not seen them. Rectify that, change that, see them, and watch them this month in October. Phantasm. Boy! Next up is also a more recent addition into the yearly rotation, and that is Ty West's X. Now again, just like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and I must say these films are a lot alike in that way. It's kind of a slow build up to a balls out, second half of the movie that is really depraved, very grindhouse. It's awesome. But just like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, this is a movie that's perfect for summer too. But there's just something about these kinds of movies that I love to watch them in the fall. Of course, it's because they're horror movies, but I don't know, being trapped on a farm in the middle of nowhere, getting murdered by strangers, just feels Halloween to me. Now, you could do Pearl as well, but I chose X. 1, because I prefer X, and 2, I think X is more of a straight-up horror film than Pearl is. While there is horror in Pearl, it's a lot more psychological. It's more of a character study, whereas X is like, here, we're going to give you some boobies and some fun for 30 minutes, and then we're just going to, cut people up in really heinous ways. And I love that about X. I love everything about this movie. But yes, I think that if you have not added this into your yearly rotation in October, you're missing out, because this movie is incredible. So add X to your list. Now, this one might be a little more controversial because I know everybody, almost everybody on this planet prefers the first film, but I am not one of those people. It Chapter 2. Now, I love It 2017. I think that both films are head and shoulders better than the 90s miniseries, and I know I just caused somebody to punch a wall. But hear me out. It Chapter 2, I think, works better for me in October, whereas opposed to the first one, I think it's more of a summer watch. I think this one works better in October simply just because it's darker, it's meaner, it's definitely more adult. And I just feel like there's something about Derry in the 27 years afterward that it's a lot more lifeless, it's a lot less colorful, more deserted, and I don't know, that just kind of works in October for me. I've always loved It Chapter 2 since the day I saw it in theaters. I couldn't believe going into it. I saw the reviews. I heard the general sentiment. People were saying, it's good, it's not as good. And I was like, okay, that sucks, but, to be expected. The 90s miniseries was the same way. And I don't know. I disagree. I do prefer this one to the first one. I don't know if it's because I'm an adult, so I related to the adults more. If it was just because I was stunned that I felt like they got the adult stuff right for the first time, or even semi-right. I don't know what it was, but a lot of the themes in this movie and just the meanness to it, I tend to prefer. So It Chapter 2, I think, is one that you should add to your yearly rotation. Coming up next is going to be VHS. Now, obviously, if you're not familiar with this franchise by now, you've been living under a rock, because VHS has really been going strong the last couple years. There was a break after the third film, and they've been pumping them out since then, with varying degrees of quality. I've not seen the latest one, but I've heard things about it. But anyway, VHS or VHS 2, I tend to side with VHS more on October viewing because I feel like it just feels like October, looks like October, and if I'm not mistaken, there actually is a story that takes place on Halloween in this movie. So I think this movie is perfect for October viewing. This is one of those anthology movies that is, a compilation from multiple different directors, multiple different stories with one mainline story going on that isn't really all that important. You're here for the sideshows, so to speak, and most of the things work in VHS. This movie, I think, is one that from the first time I saw it was like, I'm so glad to have another movie that I'm going to force myself to watch every October. Next up is going to be The Strangers. Now, you guys know, if you know me at all, that I prefer the sequel. I really do. But I think they're two different kinds of horror movies. Whereas the first one is a home invasion, slow burn, suspenseful film, the second one is just more of an all-out 80s slasher and kind of a nod to that era of cinema. Having said that, the first one is absolutely the better one to watch this time of year. One, because it looks like it takes place around that time of year. It's very isolated, very lonely, small cast, pretty much one location, out in the wilderness. It just feels very fall. I don't know why. Also, I just think it's more effective in its scares. See, if this time of year you're looking for scares, you're looking for a movie that's going to kind of get under your skin and make you feel things, it's The Strangers over The Strangers Prey at Night. And I will tell you that firsthand. I love both movies. I prefer the second movie because that is more my kind of horror. But this movie is an absolute banger to watch in October. And if you're not watching in October, what are you doing? So I think I'm going to end these every time I do one with a Halloween movie. And true to form, Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 is going to round out my list today. Now, it should be no surprise because a Halloween movie is going to sneak into every one of these videos. But I specifically chose Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 because I feel like this is in the upper echelon of the franchise when it comes to October feeling and looking, atmosphere. Halloween 2 nails it. It nails it in a, I guess I'd say more subtle way than a movie like Halloween Kills, for example. Halloween Kills is very vibrant. Halloween Kills has a gorgeous fall atmosphere. So does Halloween 2, but it's in a depressing way. It's very desaturated. It's very dark. There's decorations everywhere. It feels and looks like Halloween, but it's like a hopeless Halloween. You know, it's like how you feel that first Halloween where you're not trick-or-treating anymore, when you've realized that you've grown up and you're just kind of like, yeah, it's Halloween, but it doesn't really feel like it anymore. And that's kind of what this movie is visually. Having said that, you guys know how much I love this movie. You know it's in my top 3 of the franchise. Always will be. And you'd have to be a damn good movie to supplant this movie. I am very confident in how I feel about this movie and where I set it. And I think that if you are going to watch a Halloween Michael Myers film in October, there are few better than this one to watch right here. But that is 10 more movies that I think you guys should watch this October. Obviously, there are probably hundreds more I could list, and I hope to do at least 2 more of these before October is done. But I want to know what you guys think. Of my list of movies, do you watch any of these every year in October, or are you going to add them to your list now? If I missed one that you feel like is a quintessential Halloween watch, let me know down in the comments section. Let's discuss it all down below together. Be sure to leave a like on this video if you haven't already. Subscribe to my channel. It's right there. Takes a second. Notify yourself so you know when I upload new videos. Follow me on social media. Consider becoming a patron for $1 today, where you get early access to every video I do and an extra You Need a Horror podcast episode once a month. That's it for me, guys. This is Nick at the Lost River Drive-In, and I am pulling out.